psychology and psychoanalysis. Hi everyone, my name is Ellen Park. If you're new to this podcast, welcome. I'm a licensed psychologist in New York and I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you'll find the content I share here insightful, practical, and meaningful. Welcome back. This summer, I finally picked up a book that had been on my reading list for years. The title is Understanding Media, The Extensions of Man by Marshall McLuhan. Many people are also familiar with another of McLuhan's books, The Medium is the Message, an inventory of effects. Despite the similar title, it is a separate book, published a few years later, that presents many of his ideas in a more visual and accessible format. Before we begin, a little background on the author. Marshall McLuhan was a Canadian media theorist and public intellectual who wrote in the early 1960s, long before the internet, smartphones, social media, or artificial intelligence, AI. Rather than asking what technology can do for us, he asked a deeper question. How do technologies change human beings? AI is a medium. More than 60 years after it was published, his question feels remarkably relevant. I found myself wondering, what would McLuhan make of AI? Today, I'd like to share 3 ideas from the book that especially stood out to me. First, the medium changes us more than the content. McLuhan's most famous phrase is, "The medium is the message." I personally love this quote. Every new medium reshapes us, not only through the information it carries, but through the ways it changes how we think, communicate, and live. The printing press, for example, didn't simply produce books. It transformed literacy, education, and politics. Television reshaped family life, advertising, and attention. The internet didn't merely connect computers. It fundamentally changed the rhythm of everyday life. The lasting impact of a technology isn't just the information it delivers, it's the environment that it creates. McLuhan also described media as extensions of man. Every important technology extends some human capacity. The wheel extends the foot, writing extends memory, the telephone extends the voice. Electricity extends the nervous system by allowing information to move almost instantly around the world. This idea eventually led him to the concept of the global village, where electronic media collapse time and distance. Reading this today, I couldn't help wondering whether AI represents the next step beyond the global village. AI doesn't simply connect people, it connects ideas. In a single conversation, we can move from philosophy to neuroscience, economics to biology, or art to computer science. Disciplines that once existed separately now meet in one place. Perhaps AI is becoming an extension of our thinking itself. I'm not suggesting that AI is conscious. Rather, AI allows us to offload parts of our cognitive work in ways that previous technologies never could. McLuhan encouraged us to ask a different question from the one we usually hear, like, is AI accurate? Or is it more accurate than we are? But rather, how is AI changing us? How is it reshaping attention, memory, creativity, education, work, relationships, and the way future generations learn to think? If McLuhan is right, the greatest legacy of AI won't be the answers it gives. It will be the people it helps create. Second, we are already participants. Another powerful idea in understanding media is that we can no longer stand outside technology as detached observers. We are already participants. The real question is whether we participate consciously or unconsciously. That feels especially relevant today. There is a temptation either to reject AI completely or to embrace every new model without hesitation. McLuhan suggests that both reactions miss the point. AI is already becoming part of our environment in schools, workplaces, healthcare, search engines, and creative work. The question is no longer whether AI will shape society. It already is. The question is whether we recognize how it's shaping us. One chapter of this book is titled The Gadget Lover, Narcissus as Narcosis. The story of Narcissus is one of the best-known myths from Greek mythology and was most famously told by the Roman poet Ovid in his Metamorphoses. Today, the word narcissism, meaning excessive self-love or self-centeredness, comes from Narcissus' name, although the modern psychological concept is far more nuanced than the myth itself. McLuhan argues that Narcissus wasn't simply vain. Rather, he became numb to himself. His reflection was an extension of himself, yet he failed to recognize it. For McLuhan, technology works in much the same way. Every technology extends us, but once it becomes ordinary, we stop noticing its effects. The greatest effects of technology are often invisible, not because they are small, but because they become normal. Thinking about AI, perhaps the greater risk is that we become so accustomed to relying on it that we stop noticing how it is reshaping our own habits of thinking. McLuhan also divided media into hot and cold based on how much participation they require from the audience. Hot media provide rich, detailed information and require less involvement, while cold media offer less information and invite the audience to actively fill in the gaps. McLuhan believed that the way a medium engages our senses influences how we think, interact, and organize society. His distinction between hot and cold media was a way of showing that the form of communication matters just as much as its content. For McLuhan, this difference wasn't just technical, it shaped how people think, communicate, and experience the world. AI seems to embody both characteristics at once. On the one hand, AI feels like a hot medium, delivering highly developed content with remarkable speed. On the other hand, anyone who uses AI regularly knows that the quality of the interaction depends heavily on the quality of the questions we ask. In that sense, AI behaves like a cold medium, inviting and often requiring our active participation. Third, the AI age requires systems thinking. McLuhan also argued that an increasingly interconnected world requires more than specialization. It requires systems thinking. Understanding AI isn't simply a technical challenge. It also requires philosophy, psychology, education, economics, ethics, history, law, and the arts. AI doesn't recognize academic departments because the questions it raises are fundamentally human. If AI simultaneously changes communication, education, creativity, work, healthcare, and decision-making, then no single discipline can adequately explain its impact. We need to connect insights across fields because AI is changing the relationships between them as much as the disciplines themselves. In his book, Understanding Media, McLuhan suggests that modern society increasingly resembles a psychiatrist's couch. That image reminds me of the psychoanalyst couch nowadays because psychoanalysis treats the person as a whole rather than as a collection of isolated parts. I found myself wondering whether AI is placing humanity on a kind of collective psychiatrist couch. It is prompting questions that once belonged primarily to philosophers, but are now becoming practical questions for everyone. Like, what is intelligence? What is creativity? What is knowledge? What is work? And ultimately, what makes us human? In that sense, AI isn't only changing what we can do, it's encouraging us to reflect more deeply on who we are. And perhaps that is McLuhan's most enduring lesson. As a final thought, a deeper understanding of media, including AI, can lead to a deeper understanding of ourselves. McLuhan believed that media are extensions of human beings, shaping not only how we communicate, but also how we perceive, think, and interact with the world. That is why clinicians, educators, researchers, and indeed everyone can benefit from understanding media. In understanding our media, we ultimately come to better understand ourselves, and in doing so, improve our practice. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time.